The billionaires are given 12 hours to hunt them down. At the beginning of the movie, after barely surviving an attempt on her life by her wealthy in-laws, Grace is seen sitting on the stairs of the Ladomers mansion as the entire house burns around her. Soon, police officers and emergency responders arrive at the scene. They try to question her about what happened, but because of the extreme trauma she has suffered, Grace suddenly loses consciousness and is rushed to the hospital. During the ambulance ride, Grace stops responding. While the medical team works to save her, she begins remembering everything that happened. She recalls how, on the night after her wedding, the Ladomers family forced her to participate in a traditional hide-and-seek game. However, the game was not a harmless family tradition. Their real intention was to hunt her down and sacrifice her in an ancient ritual. But Grace managed to survive until sunrise, which meant she won the game. As a result, the entire Ladomers family was mysteriously killed in an explosion. After a long struggle, Grace finally wakes up. She finds herself lying in a hospital bed with handcuffs around her wrists. Detective Bassett informs her that she is under arrest for suspected murder and arson. He explains that 2 bodies were discovered inside the mansion and that the blood on her wedding dress does not belong to her. At that moment, Grace's sister Faith arrives. Although the 2 sisters have not spoken for nearly 7 years, Faith is still listed as Grace's emergency contact. Detective Bassett allows the sisters a few minutes alone. Once he leaves, the 2 immediately begin arguing about their broken relationship. Grace is especially hurt because Faith lived nearby in New York City but never contacted her. Faith, however, argues that Grace was the one who never wanted to be a real sister to her. Grace wants to explain what truly happened that night, but she fears Faith will never believe her story. As Faith prepares to leave, Grace finally tells her the truth, that her own husband attacked her and stabbed her, and that she even saw something supernatural during the night. Meanwhile, the sick billionaire Chester is watching news reports about a war happening around the world. He makes a phone call and orders a ceasefire agreement to be arranged. Within seconds, the news announces that the war has ended. At that exact moment, his lawyer arrives and informs him that the entire Ladomers family has been killed, but the bride survived. Chester orders his lawyer to find his children. Then he sends a message to other families who are part of the same mysterious satanic organization, announcing that the position of power is now available. In China, Chinching immediately contacts her lawyers. In Spain, Ignacio happily embraces his assistant. In New Jersey, Bill celebrates by taking drugs. In England, Viraj finds his brother Madhu inside a nightclub, and the 2 celebrate together. Sometime later, the twins Charity and Titus arrive to visit their father Chester. They believe the powerful position should automatically be given to them, but Chester tells them that it does not work that way. He tells them that they must prove themselves as true members of the family. Chester shows them the family's ancient ring and explains that it must never leave their bloodline. He tells them they must take back the throne themselves. Charity promises that she will do whatever is necessary. Chester then hands them a pillow and tells them to kill him. The twins grab the pillow together and suffocate their own father, killing him. Before we continue, don't forget to like and subscribe to support this channel. Back at the hospital, Detective Bassett is transporting the handcuffed Grace to the police station. Suddenly, Bill appears in the hallway. He attacks Bassett with a knife and immediately kills him. He then pulls out another knife and moves toward Grace, planning to finish the job. Grace and Faith try to escape, but they become trapped in a dead-end area. They return and hide behind the reception desk. Bill searches everywhere for them but cannot find them. The sisters hide inside a room and wait until Bill passes by. Then they secretly return to Bassett's body. Grace takes Bassett's gun and attempts to escape, but Bill blocks their path. When Grace tries to shoot him, Bill knocks the gun away and attacks her. As he prepares to stab her, something unexpected happens. His body suddenly explodes. Faith stands there in shock, unable to understand what just happened. Grace returns to Bassett's body and takes the key to her handcuffs. After freeing herself, she removes her blood-covered wedding dress from an evidence bag and puts it back on. Just as the sisters are about to escape, the lawyer arrives and sprays them with tear gas, causing both of them to lose consciousness. The lawyer later explains that Bill exploded because he broke the rules of the game by trying to kill Grace before the official hunt had begun. Meanwhile, the remaining family members arrive at their private estate. They stop a large circus performance, claiming there is a gas leak emergency. Shortly afterward, the family council gathers. Ignacio arrives with his son Felipe. Chinching arrives with her daughter Cheng. Viraj and Madhu arrive with Madhu's wife Martina. Grace and Faith are brought in as prisoners. The lawyer explains that because Grace won the game, she now has the right to compete for the family's powerful throne. Although Grace says she does not want the position, the lawyer tells her that the council controls the world and that she has no choice but to play the game. The game begins again, another round of hide and seek. The rules are simple: the family member who kills Grace will win the throne. But if Grace survives until sunrise, she wins. Since the family threatens to kill Faith, Grace agrees. The twins, Ignacio, Chinching, and the others begin the hunt. However, this time they are only allowed to use ancient weapons. Grace and Faith are taken to the golf course and thrown onto the ground. The 12-hour hunt officially begins. Most of the family members rush toward the golf carts, hoping to chase Grace and Faith. However, they soon discover that Charity had already taken the keys to all the vehicles and hidden them. Ignacio angrily calls them cheaters, but Ursula, Charity, and the twins quickly escape in a vehicle. Grace realizes that the family used Faith as a distraction to slow her down. While the sisters argue about what they should do next, a drone sent by Chinching suddenly appears above them. Grace grabs a stick and uses it to defend herself against the drone. However, Chinching reveals that she only wants to talk to them. As Chinching begins explaining herself, Ursula suddenly shoots the drone down. The sisters start running again as their hunters continue chasing them and firing their weapons. Grace and Faith run as fast as they can, but eventually they reach a massive wall blocking their path. With no way forward, they turn around and run in the opposite direction. While escaping, Faith tells Grace that she was always too focused on money and wealth, which is why she failed to realize that her husband was part of a dangerous cult. Grace responds by pointing out that Faith's own boyfriend works in finance, calling her a hypocrite. At that moment, they hear Ursula searching for them, so they quickly hide behind a large tree trunk. Suddenly, Titus appears from behind them. The sisters manage to react just in time and avoid his attack. However, Titus's weapon becomes stuck, and when he tries to pull it free, they use the opportunity to throw him to the ground. As Titus attempts to choke Grace, Faith attacks him from behind. The sisters struggle with him and eventually knock him unconscious using his own weapon. Charity tries to shoot at them again, but by then they have already escaped. Angry at Titus for failing, Charity slaps him and screams that he must win because their father's death needs to have meaning. As the sisters escape from the forest, Ignacio spots them and prepares his sniper rifle. However, the bullets accidentally fall onto the ground. While Ignacio struggles to reload the weapon, he accidentally fires. The shot misses Grace and Faith, but the gunshot reveals his position. The sisters continue running. Ignacio keeps shooting at them, forcing them toward a different area of the estate. Inside the mansion, the hunters' relatives watch everything through security cameras. Kip tries to secretly text the twins and warn them that the women are nearby, but Becky stops him from doing so. Inside a storage area, Faith notices a large gas tank. Realizing they can use it to escape, they create a plan. Ignacio fires toward the tank, causing thick smoke to fill the area so he cannot see them. As the sisters attempt to escape through the smoke, they suddenly run into Viraj. He immediately attacks them. At the same time, Ignacio fires at the gas tank. Just moments before a massive explosion occurs, Grace and Faith manage to escape the area. Viraj is knocked unconscious by the blast. Grace, however, is injured when several pieces of metal become stuck in her arm. Ignacio becomes worried, wondering whether he accidentally killed Viraj and lost the game. When Viraj wakes up and sees that he is alive, Ignacio feels relieved. But he soon realizes that Grace and Faith have escaped. After running for some time, the sisters enter the building through a back entrance and sit down to rest. Faith begins removing the metal pieces stuck inside Grace's arm. She tries to distract Grace from the pain by talking to her. Grace reveals that she dropped out of college and worked as a waitress until she met her husband. While cleaning Grace's wound with alcohol, Faith admits that Grace had wanted to invite her to the wedding but was unable to reach her. Faith responds that even if Grace had found her, she probably would not have come anyway. Their emotional conversation is interrupted when they hear the sound of a door opening. They quickly hide. Viraj enters the room searching for them. The sisters quietly try to leave through another door, but Viraj hears them and begins chasing them again. Grace and Faith run into a maintenance room. Inside, they find a metal saw and decide to use it to break the handcuffs connecting them. The loud sound of the saw attracts Viraj toward the room. However, by the time Viraj reaches the room, Grace and Faith have already escaped. As Viraj comes out searching for them, they suddenly push a large cart into him, smashing him against the wall. Viraj tries to fight back, but the sisters defend themselves by throwing anything they can grab. Faith hits him with a metal object, giving them enough time to escape. When Viraj chases them again, they attack him with a heavy boxing training bag, knocking his sword away. He manages to grab Faith and throw her down. As Grace tries to crawl away, Faith pushes Viraj into a large industrial washing machine. The sisters quickly lock the machine and turn it on. The boiling water slowly burns Viraj inside. When the washing cycle ends, Viraj tries to come out, but he collapses and dies. Grace finds a phone inside the room. Meanwhile, inside the council room, Madhu is in panic after hearing about Viraj's death. The lawyer tells him that because Viraj is dead, he must join the game in his brother's place. If he refuses to participate, the family will lose the blessing of their dark ritual. Terrified, Madhu decides to give his position as family leader to his wife Martina. Although Martina threatens to kill him, Madhu signs a document transferring his power to her. Now Martina is forced to sign up and participate in the hunt. Meanwhile, Grace and Faith call emergency services for help. But they do not realize that Charity is the one answering the phone. Because Charity's family controls the telephone company, Grace's call is redirected directly to her. Charity lies to them, saying the police will arrive soon, and tells them to wait at the main entrance. When the sisters try to escape that way, they are stopped inside the casino by Chinching. Chinching says she does not want to fight and puts her sword down. Her lawyer explains that he has found a solution. He tells Grace that if she marries his son, his family will gain control of the powerful position, and Grace will be allowed to live. Faith advises Grace to accept the offer. But Grace asks what will happen after the marriage. Chinching explains the truth: the marriage would make Grace a member of the cult, and she would eventually be forced to kill innocent people. Grace refuses the deal. At that moment, Ignacio arrives and begins shooting at them. Chinching steps between Ignacio and the sisters to protect them because she knows Ignacio cannot kill her. As Ignacio runs out of bullets and approaches them, Faith throws objects to distract Chinching. Grace then pushes Chinching. During the struggle, Chinching's sword accidentally enters Ignacio's neck. Ignacio dies instantly. A few seconds later, Chinching suddenly explodes, and her blood splashes onto Grace and Faith. Inside the council room, her son explodes as well. The sisters continue their escape. Grace explains that she rejected the deal because she does not want to spend the rest of her life killing innocent people. The two sisters begin talking about their past relationship and why Grace left her. Grace explains that at the time, she had received an educational opportunity and planned to bring Faith with her later. But Faith saw it as a betrayal. Faith then admits that the successful life she always talked about was actually a lie. She was still working as a waitress. Later, when they call for help again, Titus answers the phone. He tells them the police are outside and orders them to come to the door. The twins wait there, expecting to catch the sisters. But Grace and Faith surprise them by attacking from behind. Faith strikes Titus with a sword while Grace takes Charity's gun. The twins refuse to open the door. Suddenly, Martina arrives driving a car. Ignoring everyone, she crashes through the gate and escapes. Titus grabs Faith, while Charity fights Grace. Charity stabs Grace with a large nail. Faith manages to hit Charity and save her sister. The sisters then escape using the twins' golf cart. Back inside the council room, Francesca signs the agreement to replace her dead father and continue the game. The sisters return to their house. Grace removes the nail stuck in her body. Faith, however, leaves her injured sister behind and goes away. Grace, drunk from medicine and wine, remains alone. Francesca attacks her with a rocket launcher. But Francesca accidentally holds the weapon incorrectly, causing the rocket to explode in another room. Both women are temporarily blinded when a chemical spray gets into their eyes. Grace and Faith continue running through the mansion while the family members hunt them down. After escaping Viraj, they find a place to hide and try to recover. Faith removes the metal pieces stuck in Grace's arm while they talk about their painful past. Grace explains that she never abandoned Faith intentionally and that she once planned to bring her along when she left for a better opportunity. However, Faith saw it as betrayal and never forgave her. Their conversation is interrupted when Viraj finds them again. The sisters escape into a maintenance room, where they discover a metal saw and use it to break their handcuffs. Viraj follows them, but the sisters fight back. They trap him with a heavy cart, attack him with whatever they can find, and eventually push him into a large industrial washing machine. They lock the door and turn it on. The boiling water kills Viraj, allowing them to escape. Meanwhile, the remaining family members panic after losing more hunters. The lawyer tells Madhu that he must join the hunt because his brother is dead. Terrified, Madhu transfers his family position to his wife Martina, forcing her to participate. Grace and Faith call the police for help, but they do not realize Ursula has redirected the call. She tricks them into waiting at the main entrance. When they attempt to escape, Chinching stops them in the casino. She claims she does not want to fight and offers Grace a deal. If Grace marries her son, the family will stop hunting her and she can live. However, Chinching reveals the truth: the marriage would make Grace part of the cult, forcing her to continue their deadly traditions and kill innocent people. Grace refuses. At that moment, Ignacio arrives and starts shooting. Chinching protects the sisters because Ignacio cannot kill her. When Ignacio runs out of bullets, Faith distracts Chinching, allowing Grace to push her. During the struggle, Chinching's sword accidentally stabs Ignacio, killing him. Moments later, Chinching and her son mysteriously explode. Grace and Faith continue escaping. Later, they face the twins at the door. Faith attacks Titus with a sword while Grace takes Charity's gun. Before they can escape, Martina crashes through the gate with a car and drives away. Charity attacks Grace and stabs her with a nail, but Faith saves her sister by knocking Charity down. The sisters escape using the twins' golf cart. Back inside the mansion, Francesca joins the game to replace her dead father. She attacks Grace with a rocket launcher, but the weapon malfunctions and explodes in another room. Both women are temporarily blinded by chemicals and fight blindly. Grace finally defeats Francesca by hitting her repeatedly with a keyboard. Meanwhile, Titus captures Faith and demands to know where Grace is. Faith refuses to betray her sister, but Titus brutally attacks her. When Titus prepares to kill Faith, Ursula tries to stop him, explaining that Faith is not part of the game. Titus attacks Ursula as well, but she convinces him that Faith can be used to lure Grace back. Titus contacts Grace through the intercom and threatens to kill Faith unless Grace returns within 10 minutes. Grace refuses to give up. She breaks into the security room, takes a gun, and prepares to fight back.